Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 3 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk. Funding provided in part by American Petroleum Institute.
Sure, you know oil and natural gas fuel transportation and comfort. Bet you didn't know oil and natural gas fuel American jobs. 9.2 million of them. Now that's fuel for our economy. Log on to learn more.
We believe that if love is a chemical reaction, chemistry has a good chance to make the world a more harmonious place. Chemistry works so that bandages end up loving the water. Families are less afraid of energy bills. And even cars and clean air get along better. That's why we don't just make chemicals, we create chemistry. BASF, the chemical company.
Issue 1, still chief.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Tonight, more than 200 years after a former colony won the right to determine its own destiny, the task of perfecting our union moves forward. Tonight, in this election, you, the American people, reminded us that while our road has been hard, while our journey has been long, we have picked ourselves up. We have fought our way back. And we know in our hearts that for the United States of America, the best is yet to come. Whether you held an Obama sign or a Romney sign, you made your voice heard, and you made a difference.
The tally. President Obama, 50%, 58 million votes. Mitt Romney, 48%, 56 million votes. So much for the popular vote. The electoral vote. 270 are needed to win. President Obama, 303. Governor Romney, 206. Still unassigned, 29 electoral votes. Florida is conducting its recount. Question. Was this election a mandate, a landslide, a rout, a squeaker, a marginal win? What was it?
It's a significant victory by the President of the United States by more than 2 million votes, John. There's no doubt about that. I don't believe it's a mandate, but the real fireball...
Why isn't it a mandate if it's such a big win?
A mandate for what? There is a mandate, I think, to work together. Certainly the entire country wants more of that, and to get these problems solved in the deficit, John. But the real firebell in the night on this election is for the Republican Party. There are 100 million folks in this country who are black, brown, Asian, Hispanic, Middle Eastern. They voted between 70% and 90% Democratic, and the white vote only went by 18 points to Mitt Romney. John, of the 7 largest states in the country, Illinois, New York, Pennsylvania, California have gone Democratic in 6 straight elections. The other 2, Ohio and Florida, have swung Democratic in 2 elections. And in Texas, the white folks in Texas are now a minority in the bastion state of the GOP.
Do you think this was a split verdict?
Not at all. The president won 50.4% of the popular vote, which admits him to a club of only, he becomes the 6th president in history to win 2 terms with over 50% of the vote, a group that includes Ronald Reagan and Dwight Eisenhower, I might add. He won an electoral college landslide. George W. Bush, with a much smaller electoral college win, pronounced that he had a mandate. This president's not going to use that language. It's oh so 20th century, you might add. It's not how he intends to govern. But beneath the numbers of a re-elected president, a Senate that is divided, there was an earthquake. And it was an election that the Republicans should have won in a bad economy with all that money, and they lost virtually every group. They even lost Cubans in Florida, which used to be reliable voting bloc. So you have to ask, what does the Republican Party do next? But that's not my top priority, frankly.
Don't broad brush it excessively. The Republicans kept the House, the Democrats kept the Senate, and the president
a Democrat kept the White House. That's a split verdict.
Beneath those numbers, there was an earthquake, John. And yes,
the hidden earthquake.
No,
nobody felt it.
Everybody feels
no
it.
Richter, nothing on the Richter scale, but there was an earthquake. That's what she's saying.
Well, I don't know that I would describe it as an earthquake, but when you think of the fact that we had 23 million people unemployed and the worst economic history of 4 years in our history other than the Depression, and he still carried it through, it seems to me that was, I'll call it anything else, but I'd call it a landslide under the conditions that he had to run. So I think it was a decisive victory.
Was this a ho-hum election?
Well, there was, it was very significant on several counts. First, the exit polling showed that most of the voters did blame the economic problems on Bush. They said that, and they wanted to give Obama more time to work on it, which is pretty significant considering expectations. We expected just the opposite. Do
you remember how many people attended his victory speech in 2008?
Yes.
In the stadium in Chicago?
Sure.
240,000.
That's right.
You know how many were there this year? 10,000.
Right.
How do you explain that?
This one was indoors.
It was indoors.
Next question.
Right.
No, John.
What's the tolerance indoors?
John,
come on now. You know there were a lot of. What was the percentage of seats that were unoccupied?
Can I get back to your mandate question?
Well, there was a big difference there.
It's a very important mandate here. Well, so what? It's the last election.
It's a split verdict. It was a close election.
Split verdict.
The Republicans lost at every level, John. They lost in the House, they lost the Senate, and they lost the White House.
You compare this with 2008. He won by 365 electoral college votes to McCain's 173. In 2012, it was only 332 electoral votes. That's a drop-off of 10%.
But he carried every battleground
was
state
about
but
8%.
He won all the battleground states except 2. That's significant. And those other 2, as Pat mentioned, you're seeing demographic shifts that portend a big message for the Republican Party's future.
We're not finished this yet. Okay, Mitt misses his moment.
We aired this video last week, and we're airing it again. In the wake of Hurricane Sandy, Republican Governor Chris Christie, whose state of New Jersey was ravaged by the storm, took this question from Fox's Steve Ducey.
Is there any possibility that Governor Romney may go to New Jersey to tour some of the damage with you?
I have no idea, nor am I the least bit concerned or interested.
Now, take a look at this photo of whom Governor Christie did tour the damage with, President Barack Obama. Now, here's Christie on Obama's win over Romney.
Listen, I'm extraordinarily disappointed. I mean, I put a lot of time and effort into the Mitt Romney campaign.
Did Governor Romney, Mort, commit a huge mistake by not going to the storm-ravaged New Jersey coast, joining Governor Christie and President Obama, who were both on the scene? Was it a telling mistake?
It probably
because it was all over the news, night after night after night, for the week preceding the election.
Right. That's right. It certainly was a mistake in the way, in retrospect. But I will tell you, the real mistake that Romney made was the way he handled Chris Christie when he was picking a vice presidential partner for the campaign, and Christie was extremely alienated by however that process was, and that still carried forward. But having said that, absolutely, Romney had the chance to show up and be a player and be a visual player on all television, and he wasn't there.
He wasn't there.
He had no reason.
It was the first question that occurred to me when I saw the president there. Where's Romney?
That's right.
It could be said that he would be capitalizing on a non-political event.
Exactly. He had no reason.
But that's not the point. He's the de facto head of the party, is he not?
What are you doing there?
The head of the party ought to be there.
But you remember what happened?
He had no role, and he wisely stepped aside. He would have been accused of political opportunism. Well, that would have hurt him more. I don't know why you have to. Why do you have to?
That is the equation you have, but it was evident that he was not there, and it was a mistake.
Why do you have to diminish? Why do you have to diminish the president's achievement here?
I am not diminishing the achievement. I'm admitting that he won the election. But I'm saying
he didn't win it because of Chris Christie.
What does he have to work with?
It's a diminution. I heard the beginning of a Chris Christie campaign here, which is legitimate. I mean, Chris Christie, I think, is well suited to be one of the leaders of a party right now that's trying to search for its soul again.
And we're going to talk
maybe
about
Christie doesn't want to wait for 8 years. If Romney had won, he might have to wait for 8 years. Now he has to wait for 4 years if he wants to make the move.
He's going to have to wait a long time. But let me just say this. Romney did not have, shall we say, an easy contact with the American people. He wasn't that kind of candidate. Okay? This was another illustration where he could have had a much better connection given what was happening.
You know, the polls were so close that if he had gone to that horrible event
John, let me get into this first. I think it would have been a mistake for him to show up
Exactly.
there.
Oh, give me a
There's
break.
nothing he
Give
could
me a
have done
break.
there.
Right.
People are going to say, what are you doing, handing out canned food? You'd just have been a distraction. However, let me say this about Christie. There's nothing wrong with what Christie did in embracing the president and coming in and helping him in his state. He's a Jersey Shore boy. But that gratuitous shot at Romney and the statements he made have damaged him with a lot of folks who understand that he ought to have the president in there, but there's no reason to backhand Mitt Romney, who's in a
Do you think,
tough
you think
race.
it was an accidental backstab?
I think the president's intercession in that storm very much sealed his election.
You think Christie has something in mind for himself for 2016?
Not in the
and that he
Republican
doesn't want
Party.
Romney
I
on
think
the
he's
scene?
gonna
Are
have-
you saying that about the
I think
revered
he's
Governor
not-
Christie?
not in the
He's going to have a
Republican
tough
Party.
time in 2016 in the
right.
Republican Party if he
That's
runs.
right.
If we're
because
going
of that.
to talk about Romney's mistakes, in the primaries when he got to the right of Rick Perry and every other Republican on immigration, and secondly when he said he was going to defund Planned Parenthood.
Right.
That was a gold mine for the
Right.
Democrats
Absolutely.
who really got out what's called the new American electorate, a lot of unmarried women. That was a real wake-up call
Right.
for
And
women.
he went from right to
Exit
left.
poll.
Everybody thought he was unstable, that he hadn't real clear convictions.
Exit polling. Even after the ballots are cast and the tallying is done, there is still one more set of polls that political junkies love, the exit polls. I hope I'm not overburdening you on this, but here are some of the findings from 26,565 male and female voters nationwide, published by USA Today. Men, Obama 45%, Romney 52%. Women, Obama 55%. Get a load of this. Romney 43%. Question, women accounted for 53% of the electorate. Was Romney's 12% deficit among women the decisive factor in his loss?
Yes, but this is not unusual. One of the reasons is, John, there are tens of millions of single women with kids who depend upon government for all the benefits and for the food, for the education, medication, and all these things. And these folks generally vote and continue to vote Democratic because they see the Republican Party as a party that's an enemy of the government from which they get benefits, and they don't pay taxes.
These women, by the way, work.
Right,
They're
Some of them work.
welfare. We're talking about working women.
Some of them work,
who
no
indeed
doubt
do.
about it.
Well, the majority of them actually. We always think about welfare moms, but a lot of divorced moms out there, middle class moms, are raising their families, working hard, and those any kind of support is important, and they want to feel like the government cares about them.
People who have a positive role of government.
There's another thing, okay?
Yes, I'm married to a woman. Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
You
And if I don't say that, she's going to
save the women chair. That's what this chair is. Right?
We just said, thank you.
Middle and a lot of working class folks really feel that this economy doesn't work for them any longer, and women are particularly critical to
All right,
that.
let's get another sample. Voters by age, the millennials, 18 to 29, Obama 60%, Romney 36%. Why are the millennials still with President Obama, Pat?
He's a charismatic figure, and most of the millennials, quite frankly, are idealistic young. Many of them voters are in school. They don't pay any taxes, and they get student loans.
Did they back
and all
you
these
on
benefits.
any one of your triple efforts at becoming president of the United States?
Oh, listen, who got George Wallace in 1968 won the youth vote. They go to the extremes.
Yeah,
so they like me.
Youth on my campus anyway.
They're social liberals also.
Right.
They have tolerant views about marriage
views.
and gay people and
Left-wing.
pot,
this is
everything.
known as the hookup culture. Look into
they're
it.
hooking
Okay,
up with
retirees age 65 and older. Obama 44%, Romney 55%.
Right.
What about that? You want to speak to that?
As a retirement age person, no, older
You
folks
can't be telling the truth.
are more. I'm afraid so. I got my Medicare card, John, but no, I think that older voters are, of course, more conservative in regard to the social change. I think the whole idea of a guy named Barack Obama with an African background in his family being president is new to a lot of people.
You're handling this race question very well. Let's get a little bit more race in here. White Americans, Obama 40%, Romney 58%. Black Americans, Obama 93%, Romney 6%. Hispanic Americans, Obama 69%, Romney 29%. Asian Americans, hold on, Pat, Obama 74%, Romney 25%. Question, where did President Obama pick up such exhaustive ethnic support.
Most important here, I think, is the Hispanic support, because when you consider if Romney had gotten the Hispanic turnout that George W. Bush had 8 years earlier, he'd be the president-elect right now. That group, as Eleanor said, during the debates and all, you saw one signal after another to the Hispanic community turn them off. Meanwhile, Barack Obama signed an executive order that really instated a temporary version of the DREAM Act, which helped to make up for the fact that he hasn't pushed for comprehensive immigration reform.
Mitt Romney got the same share of the white vote that Ronald Reagan did. And Ronald Reagan won a landslide. What's happened was the white vote in those days was 88%, and it's now down to 72% and falling. Right. You got to get higher and higher shares of it, impossible shares of it for the Republicans, and that is the demographic disaster. The
Republicans got to reach out to non-whites. That's not a disaster. They just really got to do it.
Black folks have voted 90 or 95% Democratic since Barry Goldwater.
Since Barry Goldwater. See, Pat, get the picture?
50 years.
You got to be welcome. Well, it's taking that long for the Republicans to turn around and be welcoming to black voters.
Why did black folks vote 9-1 against Hillary Clinton in Mississippi?
Hey, Pat, in Mississippi, Hillary Clinton.
They supported her overwhelmingly initially.
Remember the old days when black folks supported Hillary 2-1 over Obama? Do you remember that? Early in the campaign?
After Iowa, that went right out the window.
It's not just because of race. Otherwise, they'd be getting what was, how soon I forget? The Pizza Man. How soon I forget?
Herman Cain.
He got 1.6 million fewer African-American votes than he got in 08. Why is that?
That's right, because there has been a little bit of disappointment. I'd say about that much.
Turnout is smaller, John.
1%.
What do they want him to do that he didn't do?
Well, he hasn't done anything specifically targeting the black community. But I think that's because the administration has been slow to pitch it that way. Because, Obamacare and right down the line disproportionately help low-income folks, including black folks.
Turnout of all groups was down. I mean, Romney, this election was the minus 10 million or something from the last election. That explains African American. He got 93% last time.
Do you think we get more out of this issue than was there? No, of course not. Issue 2, common ground.
Mr. President, this is your moment. We're ready to be led, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans. Let's challenge ourselves to find the common ground that has eluded us.
I'm open to compromise. I'm open to new ideas. I'm committed to solving our fiscal challenges. But I refuse to accept any approach that isn't balanced. I am not going to ask students and seniors and middle-class families to pay down the entire deficit while people like me making over $250,000 aren't asked to pay a dime more in taxes. I'm not going to do that.
Gridlock is the new big task facing Barack Obama and the U.S. Congress. Gridlock over the so-called fiscal cliff. What's the fiscal, or better put, financial cliff? Think of it as a high, steep rock, a ledge that the U.S. is teetering on and will plunge over if no action is taken on certain financial matters. What are those? 1, the Bush-era tax cuts. In 2001 and 2003, Congress under President George W. Bush lowered everyone's taxes. But it was only temporary, like 11 years temporary. Less than 2 months from now, on midnight, December 31, taxes go back up. The average household will pay more in taxes each year, $2,000 to $3,500 more. 2. Sequestration. What's that? New big budget cuts. $110 billion in cuts in 2013 alone. They go into effect on January 2 and will affect the defense budget and the domestic budget. Layoffs may ensue. The Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, says unemployment could climb up over 9%, pushing the U.S. back into recession. Why did this happen? An automatic sequestration or permanent set-aside of $1.2 trillion was passed by Congress in order to force Congress to compromise and figure out how to cut the budget itself. But a congressional supercommittee of House and Senate members failed to reach a deal last year. Now the clock has run out. and the budget will be cut automatically. In reaction to this situation and other factors, one day after President Obama was reelected, the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 313 points.
Question: the two-day stock market sell-off following President Obama's reelection is a 434-point drop in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, wiping out some $50 billion in investors' equity. Why are the markets negative on Obama's reelection?
They're not negative on his reelection. They're worried that the Congress is not going to be able to come together with the White House to solve the fiscal cliff.
Which is occasioned by the reelection of President Obama.
No, it isn't. It's the markets would have gone down regardless. You're not going to lay that off on Obama.
You hear what the esteemed Mort said about that? Would the markets have gone down anyway?
Absolutely not. There is real concern over Obama's leadership of the economy, and there's good reason for that, given what's happened. But this fiscal cliff, as they say, is essentially a suicide pact intended to force the Congress to deal with it. It's not a rational way of getting the deficit under control. And the question is, will Obama and the Republicans in the House be able to reach an agreement? There's a lot of doubt whether, in fact, they'll do it. They're going to all make the right rhetoric. They're sounding a lot better. We'll see what happens. There's no trust between them. That's a big, big problem.
What the Republicans will do, John, I think they're going to fight to hold the 35%. But they are going to do what Mitt Romney recommended, I think, cap deductions or exemptions and things like that. But they better get a deal, because the taxes in the country
Let's get out. I want a judgment on this before we leave, and I want you to expand according to time. Exit question: will there be a grand compromise between Obama and the Republicans to avoid the fiscal cliff before Christmas? Yes or no?
Before the new year, yeah.
Before the new year.
Compromise roadmap, and the president will not cave on getting the rich to pay more.
Yes, there will be.
They may take it right over the cliff for a day, but they're going to get it before the cliff sets in.
The answer is it's too close to call. Actually, yes, they will. Issue 3, the referenda scene, otherwise known as the Happy Stoners.
American voters passed a number of ballot initiatives this past election day. These include item: pot prevails. 2 states, Colorado and Washington, voted to legalize the sale and possession of marijuana for recreational use. That's recreational use, not just medicinal. A similar measure in Oregon failed to pass. Item: more marriage. That's same-sex marriage. Gays can now get married in Maine, Washington State, and get this, Maryland. Item: gambling. Casinos got the okay in Maryland and Rhode Island. Oregon voted no. Item: death penalty. California could have repealed it, but did not do so.
Question: are Colorado and Washington now on a collision course with the federal government? Eleanor Clift.
I don't think so. I don't think the federal government is going to aggressively go after people who are possessing small amounts of marijuana. And I think they're going to defer to the states. I mean, the marijuana laws are changing in this country, and the federal government is not going to make a cause célèbre out of criminalizing that law. That law is going to shrivel up and die.
If you were our first female president of the United States, Eleanor Clift,
yeah,
would you legalize? Would you work to legalize marijuana for the nation?
I think it's something that's going to happen. Is it a major priority? No, and I think probably individual states need to decide that for themselves, because you would have revolutions probably in some of the southern states, the more conservative states. If that were forced upon them by the federal government, they would view that like the government stormtroopers coming after them.
Is marijuana definitely not an escalator drug? You know what I mean by that, Pat?
I think it's an introductory drug. It's an introduction into the drug culture.
An escalator means you're going up regardless, once you get on.
Well, I mean, look, certainly some people have, I'm sure, tried marijuana and then stopped there, but there's no doubt about it, almost every person that's a druggie or something like that began smoking a bit of marijuana.
True?
They don't start with LSD.
Well, yeah, but also most heroin dealers began by drinking milk. I mean, the fact is, John, tens of millions of people in this country have smoked marijuana sometime in their life, including our president. And I think, and he came into office indicating he was going to go easy on any kind of prosecutions of medicinal marijuana. Unfortunately, that promise has been betrayed by the federal prosecutors out there. I think now that this is his final term, and I think he owes that constituency something, because he's the kind of guy who can make an aggressive push toward decriminalization, which has put more folks in jail, including black folks, than about anything else.
Did he also try cocaine?
Of course, yeah. That's mentioned in his novel. That they tried a little blow. And I think, I admire a guy who was candid about.
We don't call it a novel. We call it a memoir.
Well, yes, I regard it like Alex Haley's Roots.
You were right the first time.
Yeah, like Alex.
Was that a Freudian slip?
That was a Freudian slip, but he himself has said there are composite characters.
He watches this program.
Well, I hope he does. He wants to be well informed. He wants to be well informed. Absolutely.
Predictions, Pat.
I think they'll get a deal, and as I said, the 35% will be maintained, and they'll give up deductions and exemptions.
Eleanor.
The DREAM Act plus immigration reform will pass probably in the next year. Republicans will rush to cooperate. Even Sean Hannity at Fox says he's evolving on immigration.
The Europeans are continuing to press down the value of the euro in order to expand their exports to the United States and diminish U.S. exports to Europe.
Wow. Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., who was reelected this week by a landslide, despite not campaigning, because in the Mayo Clinic, will step down and be replaced possibly by his wife or brother.
Sad. I predict the GOP will undertake an exhaustive re-examination of its core values, structure, and mission. Bye-bye.
Funding provided in part by American Petroleum Institute.
What's up with the future of natural gas? Well, just look down, deep underground. That's where America's safely recovering more than a century's worth of clean natural gas. Plentiful, secure, and all-American. Energy from shale. Log on to learn more.
We believe that if love is a chemical reaction, chemistry has a good chance to make the world a more harmonious place. Chemistry works so that bandages end up loving the water. Families are less afraid of energy bills. And even cars and clean air get along better. That's why we don't just make chemicals, we create chemistry. BASF, the chemical company.